And we see Gen Zs and, of course, Gen Alpha still young, choosing to follow their passions rather than just the money, because Gen Zs and the earlier generations had been programmed that even choice of career you would consider, will I get a job? Will I be able to make money using by this career? So Gen X and of course Gen Alpha are more, Gen Zs are more interested in being happy, enjoying what they are doing, as opposed to just doing it for money and choosing a career which they don't like because it would lead to employment. So we are seeing a change of our worldview. We also see that digital habits shape worldview, identity, and socialization. So I keep telling adolescents and young people brought to my clinic that when we were growing up, we were shaped by the environment. So if your neighborhood said cannabis was bad, and if you take cannabis, you'd get psychosis, that is all we believed. For them, it's different because they will be told by their parents and by the neighborhood, by the school, cannabis is bad. But then they'll go online and see musicians using cannabis. They'll see it has been legalized in America. So they have more sources of information like unlike us, who were shaped by the environment, the village, also, even if you're in an estate, the estate, or you're in the village, the village. So you just knew what you were exposed to. These other two generations can be mentored by other forms of by the global world, because they will read what is happening in Australia, they'll read what is happening in America, in Europe, and every part of the world. Um, we have said that some Gen Zs are also parenting, so 28 and above. So we are seeing changes which we can't bury our heads in the sand and pretend they are not happening. So what do parents then need to do? So as a parent, despite the change in access to online information, access to online gadgets, access to more screens, what does a parent need to do? So a parent needs to model their own digital habits. You've seen images circulating where even the parents are struggling with to leave social media. So you need to model that. Children learn what they see, not what you tell them. So you have to model and be an example. You have to set loving boundaries. Yes, they need a bit of it, but you need to set boundaries. We know that, yes, it's good to build self-esteem, but you also need to have self-control and have boundaries. Parents need to openly talk about the digital world. They need to nurture emotional and social skills, not just do this career, follow this career, it will lead to employment. So you need to nurture emotional and social skills as well. And parents also need to stay connected to faith and values. You need to have your own values, and you need to pass your own values to your children. We are saying that they are influenced globally. So you tell them this is what our morals are, but they'll go online and see other things. That doesn't mean that you stop your role. You still need to stay connected to your values. Parents also need to adapt technology as it changes, because if you don't adapt, the only thing that doesn't change is change. Before COVID, many of us did not know how to log in into a Zoom meeting, but we learned and we are able to do it. So before COVID, we never imagined people could do online classes, do a whole course without meeting, and you will still pass. So we all need to adapt to technology as it changes, and it changes every day. Again, Each family has to decide on when they are going to have device-free family time, when they are going to, what limit they are going to put on screen time, because even for Generation X, we still had screens. We had TVs, we had PlayStation. We might not have had smartphones when our kids were in primary school. We had mobile phones. I got my first mobile phone as a graduation for my first degree. When I tell my sons that, they can't imagine that my first phone was after I'd graduated. It was a graduation present. And I remember I was an intern and I went to the wards and it rang and I didn't know how to put it off. And the consultant took it personally that I was showing off my phone because the phones were not many. Not everybody had a phone. So we have come from far. That some of us first got their first Kabambe simple phone, not a smartphone, after graduation. Try telling that to a Gen Alpha, they have no idea. Again, we controlled screen time. We still need to, even now. We also need to have one shared conversation over a meal with no devices. Each family must choose that. We still emphasize that even 25 years ago. We need to emphasize on one activity, outdoors, creative, or reading. I keep encouraging parents that the things we thought were for kids, for example, mandalas and coloring, they are mandalas for adults and they are coloring books for children. That is a way of bonding with your child. Things we thought they were for grandparents like knitting and crocheting, they come in very handy and you can use that to bond with your child. Uh, if you don't watch out, you'll find your Gen Alpha or Gen Z cannot fix a button and they have to take it to the tailor. It is real. So if you don't teach them those simple things, the things you do without any struggles, and think you are born knowing them, you need to know that they are learned. That you can have a Gen Z taking a button to be replaced by a tailor because they don't know how to do it. So those are things, reading, um, creativity. Uh, People are now moving to the things we thought cooking, preparing a meal. We used to think those things were for those who could not afford house helps, but we now know they are very helpful. Remember that as our children imitate the West, one thing which is different is that in the West, not everybody affords house help. So the kids in the West learn to do household chores, but our children do not get that. If you're not cautious, they may not get that benefit because you are able to afford a house help. So they're imitating people who are already pushed by circumstances to learn basic household chores. And if you don't watch out, that you find Gen Zs learning to do household chores only when they start working. Remember that we are now seeing many of our Gen Zs being commuting from their homes to go to university. Previous, Previously, university people stayed in the hostels, so they were able to learn basic things. People went to boarding schools. They were able to learn to wash their clothes. As circumstances change, things we took for granted are getting lost. We also need to create time for passing our values and faith because I believe everybody has a belief, either through storytelling, through prayer, or whatever you believe in. Whether it's meditation, you need to create time for that. And at the end of the week, reflect gently what went well, what we can improve on. Remember, all these principles were there even 25 years ago. And I keep emphasizing 25 years ago because that is when we started using the Incredible Years parenting program. If you go online, you will be able to read about Incredible Years parenting program, and any of you can even purchase it online. So you can read about it. It was developed over 30 years ago. It's still being improved on, but these basic principles do not change. It is also encouraged that a gentle weekly guide to nurture connection, model balance of screen time, and anchor your beliefs is important. You need to evaluate at the end of the week how I connected heart to heart today. This could be social, and it could be emotional. You need to evaluate with your family at the end of the week. What boundaries did you put on screen time? Remember, in parenting, we encourage relationship of parent-child to be more of a pyramid, that you spend more time bonding with them. Uh, that's how you teach children how to talk, how to read, by talking to them, playing with them. And I say there are many avenues of playing and removing the screens. Board games. Board games are still available and we can be able to access them. I've mentioned several things, mandalas, coloring books. I've mentioned knitting, crocheting. CBC is bringing back some of those things. Model gratitude moment. It is very easy to take everything for granted, and children need to be taught to learn to do gratitude. We now have gratitude jars, gratitude journals, which you can buy and use or create. Get a Nutella bottle, wash it, clean it, and make it your plastic one, which is clear. Make it your gratitude jar. Put every grateful thing there and review it weekly. Um, I see Regina Ngodo has raised her hand. Jacqueline, do we allow her to ask?
We'll have a time for question and answer. So probably if that was a deliberate hand, maybe we can just put it packing. We'll have a chance to ask the questions. Thank you.
Okay. So I've shared an example of a parent digital connection tracker for parents of teens and young adults. You can also modify it to be parents of younger children. And gentle weekly guide to nurture connection, model balance, and anchor faith in the digital world. So you can see it as Monday up to Sunday. You can evaluate how I connected her to her today. This could be socializing or even watching out on your mental health. Screen boundaries I set for myself, gratitude moments. So if each of us did that, then you find that by the end of the week, you're able to evaluate. I think this is same thing repeated. So you use that track to track your daily balance of screens, self-care, connection, and gratitude. Remember, some of the millennials and Gen X are learning self-care as adults because they were brought up in where they were told you have to work, rest was a sin. So they learn how to do self-care as adults. They didn't, socializing might not have been emphasized for them. So we need now to learn those things, and there's somebody who may need to mute their mic. And gratitude. Each day, check in with your heart and your goals. Now, as a protector of your child, you need to know your child's online habits. There are all sorts of ways of monitoring that. When I interact with parents, especially the millennials, you find that they have so many ways of controlling, even when they are abroad. They can control the screen time of their children when they are in another country, which is very good. It's advanced for technology. But remember, children will always be cheeky. And sometimes they could even befriend the house help. so that as you control the gadgets you think you're using, they could be using someone else's. So you need to limit your child's screen time and yourself also. Remember, we said even parents need to model. You need to know what and what not to share, even online, and learn parental controls. If you're a parent today and you do not know how to do parental controls, please seek out with your peers. They will advise you and teach you how to do it. We've talked about role modeling, social learning through modeling. Children do what children see, not what they are told. Uh, um, so you don't serve organic meals and expect, when I say meals, I don't mean meals as in food. And they need, yourself, you need to set the examples. You need to put down that phone or that laptop or whichever gadgets you're using. Truth seeker for every information circulating. Those of us who have parents of Gen Zs, when Tanzania is burning, they are the first ones to share what is happening. When there is a protest, they are the first ones to know. When Gaza is being bombed, they are the first ones to know. When Trump has made a negative remark, they are the first ones to know. Sometimes the information circulating might not be the truth. So you need to teach them how to check for credibility, how to search for information from multiple sources, how to find out what is fact and what is opinion. So like, the uh, old media, the newspapers and uh, TVs would actually check before they aired any information, whether it was a fact or an opinion, because also you can be sued, and your children need to know that if you circulate negative information without first verifying with it with me, or if it's vice versa, then you could actually sue me. Our young people might not know that. And that's why people were shocked that Gen Zs could enter parliament, places, and they go and imitate the speaker. And to them, they did not know the impression of that. I keep thinking that they were actually very innocent, did not know the implication of that. But who then do we blame? We need to teach them, yes, you have a right to your opinion, but you also need to live within the ethics and the law, and that there are consequences if you break the law. There are consequences if you're not ethical. And also, you can be sued for spreading malicious or wrong information about other people, about companies, whether they are politicians or not. So they need to know that. They also need to know when they identify stories which are too good to be true. It's good that at least now Gen Z, I'm sure also some Gen Alpha, depending on the age, are now able to tell what is AI generated and what is not. So you can see an imitation of AI of somebody speaking. If you are not in with technology, you'd think it's the truth, but a Gen Z can tell you this is AI generated. So we also as adults need to learn what is AI generated, what is true and what is not true. To be a linesman, you need to balance boundaries with freedom. Remember, we have always known about authoritative parenting, where you balance. As opposed to authoritarian, it is my way or the highway. Or as opposed to the third one, which is permissive. You allow the child to do whatever they do or whatever they choose to do. Uh, the best is authoritative, that you're balancing boundaries with freedom. Remember the importance of social bonding. And even when you're throwing a party, for either a birthday party, you need to make sure that even where you choose to host the party allows for um physical activity, reduces use of technology, gadgets, screens, and also need to teach the children how to gain the sense of achievement. Remember, as they go online, they are also having um, guidelines and influence from models who have taken several pictures and chosen the best, and they think that's how they should look, and so they get peer pressure. So we need to teach them how to celebrate themselves and also how to deal with peer pressure. As a parent, you need to be visionary. You need to look at the long term. You need to cultivate the child's interest and hobbies. You need to create quality time. You need to teach life skills. It is very common now to have agencies start a course at the university, and after a year, they say, this is not what I want to do. During my time, and those of us, maybe some millennials, we only had public university. You are lucky if your parents could send you to India or could organize an Arambi to take you to India, or you are lucky if you are rich enough to go to the UK. These days, we have many private universities. We have parallel. So parallel came when I was in the university, self-sponsored. I think it's now called self-sponsored. When it came in, we called it parallel class. It's now self-sponsored. So our Gen Zs and Gen Alpha have a lot of choice. Unlike us, where if you didn't qualify for public university, then the only choice you had was to go to a polytechnic. And by the way, we need more technical skills. I'm not saying that university is everything. We also, in Kenya, we made every other technical college a university, which is also wrong because we need the technical skills. So it is okay to follow your career, even if you're starting at technical level. Cultivate interest and hobbies, allow them to learn their interests and their hobbies, quality time with them, and teach them life skills. Life skills, depending on where you went to school, many of the millennials and the Generation X may never have known that they were taught life skills. So even if they were accidentally taught, they were never taught, sit down, we learn life skills. Um, so these days we consciously have to talk about life skills, teach life skills. I hope CBC will provide for that. When I talk about life skills, I mean that a child should be able to understand their strengths and their weaknesses. They should be able to know how to evaluate various options and choose the best option in decision making. They need to learn how to solve problems, and they need to know how to relate. That is what I mean by basic life skills. Now, to inner child reparenting, we have said not everybody who has had everything done well. In fact, I challenge people who come to my office with mental health problems, and you ask them, how was your childhood? And they say, my childhood was perfect. I doubt there is perfect childhood, because even those who think they are perfect, maybe they were overprotected and they were never exposed to learning on their own. Some people will say, my childhood was perfect. My parents provided everything. But that's not all. We never lacked anything. That is not all. So if you check, most of us have something to heal from their childhood. You just need to search well. Uh, and some of these things will crop up when you're in a crisis or changing from one phase to another. That might be the only time you realize there were some challenges and met emotional needs. So inner child reparenting involves nurturing one's inner child through self-compassion, and addressing unmet emotional needs from childhood. Remember, some of us who grew up in strict Christian beliefs, or whether it was Muslim belief, or even went to a Christian school, that the teaching was you should love your neighbor. Okay, I know even the Bible says, as you love yourself, but it was always emphasized that you are not supposed to make yourself comfortable because before everyone else was comfortable. So when you tell people to have self-compassion, it is something some of us have to learn that I need to have self-compassion for myself. The same way you would comfort a friend is the same way you need to comfort yourself, is the same way you need to talk to yourself. And so inner child reparenting allows you to address unmet emotional needs from childhood. It empowers individuals to heal past wounds, fostering personal growth and emotional resilience. Some of the techniques could include positive self-talk, like learning how to talk to yourself positively. So many people grew up with background of criticism. There's a generation of parents that believed if I criticize you, then you will improve. And the contrary is out of every 10 statements you say to your child, 8 of them should be positive and 2 negative. But some of us came from households that did not understand that. So to them, criticism was how you are supposed to improve. Being called names is what would make you change. And some of us are passing the same to our children. So we need to learn to include positive self-talk, be mindful of how you feel, establish health boundaries, and to support your own well-being. So basically, that is what is involved in inner child reparenting. I'm not sure whether that slide is clear. Just several points on inner child, daily things for inner child reparenting. So it is daily inner child reparenting practices. So if you are reparenting yourself every day, remember to talk to yourself with self-compassion. That is gentle self-talk. Remember to check in with your inner child. When you're afraid, ask yourself, what is making me afraid? What is it that um, went wrong when I was a child? Which, when such a scenario comes, I tend to behave like a child. Yes, at that time I relied on my parents to cater for my needs, but now I can take care of my needs. But if you had childhood trauma, a situation arises and you find yourself behaving like a child because it reminds you of the times when you could not take care of yourself. So you need to keep checking in with your inner child, create a safe routine, which involves exercise, uh, name your feelings. How am I feeling? Why am I anxious? Why am I sad? Why am I beating myself? Self-soothing techniques. Is it music which makes me feel soothed? Is it jogging? Is it talking to a friend? Is it coffee? Is it identify what you call self-soothing? Reframe harsh inner criticism. Remember, I said some of, let me say not some of us, some parents were criticized so much that that inner critic stayed on. So they say the same things their parents said to them. So you need to reframe that. Journaling. As you teach your children how to journal, you need how to journal yourself. Gratitude for small wins. It is very important to celebrate yourself for small wins. Yes, we were told that is bragging and it is wrong. We were told that let other people celebrate you. But the truth is you need to uh, celebrate your small wins. And you need to be your own self-cheerleader so that if other people don't celebrate you, you can celebrate yourself. Uh, you praise yourself such that other people are just topping up with their own praise. Um, engage in playful activities. Play is different for everybody. Some people would consider dancing playful. Some people would consider swimming playful. Some people would even consider crocheting, doing crossword puzzles as playful. I interacted with a family where all of them sit and do board game. And these are people who are over 50. The last one is over 50. And they play and compete with board games with their children. Still play. Some people will go for tennis. Some people will go for golf. That is still play. So identify what is play for yourself. Create a comfort corner for yourself. You know where you feel safe. Is it in the bedroom? Is it for your private walk? Compassionate review every day and bedtime reassurance. When you're going to bed, please remember to reassure yourself that you did your best. Um, I think that is all from me. Uh, I thought it would be good for all of us to. We have 10 minutes only, but we started late. So, Jacqueline, we can take up discussions and questions. I see it's 7:50. We have 10 minutes, but we started 10 minutes late. But we have 10 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much.
Lawrence Derry has raised his hand. The CEO has raised his hand.
Thank you so much. Yes, we can go ahead. Dr. Derry, you can ask your question.
Thank you, Jackie. Now, Dr. Syengo, thank you so much for that presentation. We are learning, and I joined a little bit late after you had started. After you had started,
Yes.
I just wanted to know from research, and is there a specific amount of screen time that is considered adequate? Like, can you say 2 hours, 3 hours in 24, I mean, in a day? Is there any recommendation as to what would be considered as adequate screen time? That is number one. Then number two, when you say talk to yourself positively, you know, how do you how do you learn to do such things? Do I need to go to a psychologist to teach me how to talk to myself? Because it is not as easy as it sounds.
Thank you very much. Now, screen time, are we talking of our children or are we talking about ourselves? We know as an adult, depending on the nature of work you do, sometimes you might be completing a proposal or project. You may need more time on your screen. But for children, you actually have to set the amount of screen time. So, for example, and this is different for each household, and I've told you, you forgive me because my children are Gen Z. So I have not parented an alpha. So even when my kids were growing up, what is important is a routine first. When they come from school, what is routine? What do they do? Um, so there is something we call when you have done this, then you can do this. When then rule. So you come, you shower, you take your meal, you do your homework, then you can play. You can go out and cycle your bicycle, or you can watch TV for an hour. You can be on screen for an hour, depending on the age. And remember, we say that when you're enforcing consequences, you need to have discussed with the child that I have noted this behavior, so we are going to sit with you and agree. If you do not, you exceed 1 hour of TV or screen time, what would be the consequence? The consequence could be the next day you don't have the 1 hour. The consequence could be whatever you agree. The consequence could be that you will not go do your favorite activity on weekends. Remember, we also emphasize shaping behavior with the praise and reward. Sometimes you could also reward the keeping to the screen time with stars, and at the end of the week, you withdraw those stars and convert it to a gift you can afford. Sometimes it might be just going to play out with your friends, going to the mall, going to the salon for those who have daughters. Uh, it is different for each person. Holidays are here. I understand some parents have their kids for more than 2 months and they do not know what to do with them. They want the teachers to be with them. So over the holidays, the screen time might be more, but it has to be balanced. This is the time to teach household chores. So, and this is the time to use when then. When you have ironed your clothes, when you have washed the utensils, then you can watch TV. When you've done your homework, remember the same way in schools we have timetables, at home we need to have routines. We also have to have household rules which are written sometimes. And the routine should be written even in the kitchen for the house help to know. And every house help who comes should know that this is the routine here. Sorry, I can talk about parenting the whole night. Derry, the second question was on what?
That's how do you learn to do positive self-talk?
Life will teach you. Because you discover if you continue criticizing yourself, then you attract a negativity and that is becomes you. So life teaches you the hard way. Of course, the best way is to go through therapy, to go for therapy. But many people don't go for therapy when they are okay. They go to therapy when they're in a crisis. So on a later note, life will teach you because you'll discover you talk to yourself negatively and you get negative results. Yes.
Thank you very much. Anyone else
There was
with
a
a
hand.
question? There was a hand that was up earlier. There was a hand that was up earlier. Is in the chat.
Somebody is asking, is it that awareness and awareness and Gen Zs and Gen Alpha know about mental health? Many of the Gen Zs say, my parents do not even understand mental health. And you find college students who are privileged to have insurance, they'll come for treatment, come for therapy, and they'll say, don't tell my parents because my parents do not understand. They can never understand. So yes, awareness is more. Diagnoses are just improved. Of course, the awareness comes with diagnosis. We have more mental health workers. You all know that Mathare Hospital did not have psychologists many years ago. Now it has psychologists. We all know the number of psychiatrists in the country has increased. The number of psychologists has increased. We have more mental health talks now. So awareness has increased and therefore diagnosis has improved. Remember, those of us uh, who have been long in mental health practice, ADHD was commonly diagnosed in adults because it was missed in childhood. So you find that now it can be picked in primary schools because people are more aware.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Maybe I have one more question now. So there's this
Yes.
I know as parents or as you know, people in the workforce, you talk about work-life balance. But how practical is it, especially as a parent, to be available for your children when it's either you leaving very early or them leaving very early, the school van, or you coming back home when the children are already asleep? So to some extent, they're being raised either by the house help or something of that sort. How do we strike that balance?
I think that is something everybody needs to cautiously think about. Remember, your children are not with you forever. They will go. So you better utilize the time you have with them because a time will come where you will have all the time to yourself. So, like for me, my last born is 23. So I have all the time to myself. I can do all the things I didn't do. I can work as much as I want, but remember that I also need to exercise and socialize. So, as when children are young, you need to make a cautious decision. how much work you're taking. If most of us just did Madari Hospital work, we will sure have work-life balance. But we know some of us are not, I mean, we are not paid well, so sometimes we need to supplement. And as you supplement, you are two parents. And I came across the fact that millennial parents and some of Gen Zs, remember I told you Gen Zs are from 28, so some of them qualify to be parents. Although they choose to, we were told they fear family and pregnancy. So remember, the Gen Zs are now more aware and more, they know that because I'm a man like our CEO, the kitchen is not just for the lady, that we have to share duties. The women also know how to take care of themselves. Uh, some people were surprised that a lady who has just come from maternity leave would say, "Today I'm not going home early. It's my husband's duty to take care of the baby. I've expressed milk, so today is my day out. I don't have to go home early." So Gen Zs and millennials know how to take care of themselves. You are two parents, so you can alternate. If you're busy, then the other parent can create more time. And you can actually work out such that when your children are younger, you create more time. And as they grow, they will need you less. And one day you'll have all the time to yourself. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that tip. I think it's important that we take note of that so that, we may not repeat the mistakes that probably happened in our upbringing. So is there anyone else with a question? We need to wind up now. It's 8 o'clock. Anyone else with a question or a comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So I'd like to really appreciate each and every one of us for making time. At the highest, we were 60 participants, and we really, really appreciate that you were able to make time to learn these important things. I think this topic came in as an idea because, yes, as Dr. Syengo said, there's about 2 months of holiday time, and some parents don't know what to do with their children. But I think the most important thing that has come out is that element of having a schedule or a routine, perhaps even written out and stuck on the fridge for everybody to, to know what they're supposed to do, how to be able to just praise and reward. And I think those are very good tips that I think not only for the holiday time, but you can be able to, take through our lives. And I think the one that came out very clearly also, the last part of reparenting ourselves, just as Dr. Nderi had asked, I think we might need to look for you, behind the tent to help us really do some of these things right, because even especially in the mental health field, we find that a lot of the children coming to see us are very traumatized because of how their parents are raising them, or maybe what their parents thought was best for them. And so you wonder, should I blame the parent? Should I blame the child? But I think it's important for us to know how to navigate this, and especially for ourselves, this being an initiative of the Employee Wellness Program. So we need to lead by example. And so as we just wind up, I'd like to make an announcement. So we had a sensitization of heads of departments last month on matters, the employee wellness and welfare policy. And so one of the things that we felt was necessary or important was to choose wellness champions in every department. And so we are in the process of trying to get that. So this is just for us to be aware that when this gets down in the course of this week or next week, please let us participate in, just picking the people that we feel can represent us on matters wellness. As much as the committee is really trying to do its part, we need people, foot soldiers on the ground, to be able to reach out on all these other aspects. So please, let's cooperate when that time comes, and we'll appreciate your input. So without further ado, I don't think there's anything else that can be said. Have a good evening, and we hope that some of these things that we are learning will be useful for us, and we can share them with our other colleagues and family members everywhere. So thank you so much, Dr. Syengo. We appreciate you. And I think since you already have a very structured, the parenting clinic and all that, it entails, I'm sure we'll probably look for you again to give us some of these other practical skills, especially in areas we didn't understand. So have a good evening, and we'll see you soon in our last webinar that's coming up in December. God bless
And
you.
a closing remark,
Yes.
thank you very much. And remember, there's no perfect child, there's no perfect parent. So don't beat yourself.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you
much for that. Okay, bye.
and good night.
Good night.
Bye.